Today's webinar, The Insider's Guide to the Regional Conference of MBAs, including a preview on the CFPB by Jack Konyk. My name is Beverly Kundell from National Mortgage Professional Magazine, and on behalf of the Regional Conference of MBAs, we thank you for attending. In this webinar, Bob Levy, the MBA New Jersey Executive Director, will give you a taste of what to expect at this year's conference. Without any further ado, I would like to turn it over to Mr. Levy now.
Good afternoon. I'm really delighted at the number of folks that we have on the call, and I'm very, very happy that Jack Konyk was able to join us. Jack, you're on now, I hope.
I am.
Okay. And before I introduce Jack, one of the purposes of the call, obviously, key purposes, is to tell you a little bit about the regional conference and why you ought to be there. I know that Jack's discussion today is going to relate to the residential segment of the conference. So, yeah, we're going to be starting our residential segment with something unusual. We haven't done this before, and that is a hot topics forum for both residential and commercial mortgage lending. The first 2 days of the conference, beginning on Sunday evening on the 10th, are commercial, and a very, very good commercial program, by the way, this year, including a commercial exhibit hall and lunch in the exhibit hall. And we have 2 cocktail receptions on the commercial side and 2 breakfasts, and all this is for one fee. It's a great deal. I don't think you can find much better in the way of just the pricing and what you get for the money. Then we start Tuesday afternoon with our hot topics from 2 to 5. And basically, we're inviting our conference speakers, and Jack is one of them who said he would be willing to participate, as well as those who are in attendance and whoever wants to be present. And what we want you to do is bring your issues of concern, issues that you want to discuss. Maybe some things we haven't thought about in our planning for the conference, and we'll have an open discussion, and you put your issues on the table and give your thoughts and your views, because every one of you is an expert in your own right in the mortgage business. And so each of you brings something to the table that others are going to want to hear about. So that's, no, this is not working real well. There it goes. Then we have our opening residential networking cocktail reception. Right in the exhibit hall, you get a chance to meet our exhibitors. That's sponsored by Maverick Funding. And then we go into the Wednesday program. We're going to start off the Wednesday program, of course, with a continental breakfast sponsored by First Trust Bank. And then we go into a session with Barry Habib from 8 to 9. Barry is a huge draw. Why? Because he puts a lot on the table for you. And this should be a great presentation, as it always is. And then we go into our general session, which this year, the panel that we're doing is very similar to the panel we did last year. It was very, very, very highly regarded, and everybody wanted to see something similar again. And so our panel, which does include Jack Konyk as well, is going to discuss key issues of liquidity, risk retention, the effects of QRM, ability to repay, QM, and so on. From the standpoint of industry leaders. And you see who's on there if you look at your screen: Meg Burns and Gary Cipriani, Jack, Peter Norden, Teresa Bryce Bazemore, Deborah Stills, and Tim Dale. So it's really a great panel, and we don't want you to miss that. Then we go into the afternoon, and we've got 2 other speakers, key speakers. John Robbins. John just started a relatively new mortgage company, and he's well known. He was chairman of the Mortgage Bankers Association National. He was president or chairman, depending upon what year he took it. They changed the title. But John is a very knowledgeable guy, and having recently started a new mortgage company, he's got a lot to be able to tell us about the state of the market and how to compete in the marketplace. So you'd want to hear that. And David Stevens, who you all know, I'm sure, is formerly FHA commissioner and now president of MBA National, got to be one of the most knowledgeable people in the mortgage business. not only from the standpoint of knowing what's going on in Washington, D.C., and being able to bring all that information to us in his presentation, but also from the standpoint of his unbelievable background in terms of mortgage finance. He's been in the business, and then with Freddie, and then with FHA, and now with MBA. Then we have our exhibit hall with lunch. In the exhibit hall, so far we have, how much? 99 exhibit booths as of today. We're way ahead of last year, and we actually just added some booths. So if you're interested in the booth, I would get it now, because I can't promise you that we're not going to run out. It looks like we will ultimately. And then we go into our CFPB panel. And, of course, this is going to include Jack Konyk again, and I'm going to give you the formal intro to Jack when I bring him on. And Ken Markuson, who you all know as Associate VP and Regulatory Counsel of the MBA. And the two of them, these guys know their stuff. We also have, it's not on here, but we also have Rich Andriano, who was with us last year, extremely knowledgeable. We're really going to get into the weeds a little bit on the CFPB panel, and you'll really get some good, hard information about how some of these new rules are going to work and what you're going to be expected to do during the interim period before January of 2014, getting ready. And it's going to take you time, and there are going to be a lot of interpretations, hopefully, we're going to get. We have some comments on some rules that are being submitted to CFPB. And then we will have somebody from the CFPB as well on the panel. That decision has not been finalized yet. And then, of course, we always give you the state regulatory panel, regulators roundtable discussion. If you want to know what's going on in New Jersey from a regulatory standpoint, New York, Maryland, Pennsylvania, this is the place to be. You get it all at one time, and then you can sit down at the tables and talk face-to-face with any of the regulators you want to talk to. So a great opportunity, and we really appreciate their showing up every year. We then have our great Remen cocktail reception. It's going to be over at the Revel, which is right down the boardwalk from the Taj. It's a brand new, relatively new hotel casino, and it's going to be terrific. And we're going to have a lot of fun there. We're going to start off. I want to do some awards to some of our great planning committee members. You know, we have a planning committee. This is our 30th year of putting on one of the best conferences of its kind in the United States. And I don't say that lightly. I mean, that's what we are. We're all very proud of it. And people like Regina Lowry, who is former MBA president, first female president ever of that organization, Marilyn Brown on the commercial side, and some of the others that we have that have been with us for many years. And every year we focus on the same thing. What is it? Giving the kind of experience to our attendees that they will find valuable in terms of operating their businesses and becoming more profitable, given the latest state of affairs with regulation, laws, and generally the economy. So that's what we're doing again this year, and that's why we've been so popular in the country. On Thursday in the morning, we're going to have Jennifer Whip, from a vice president of Fannie Mae, who's going to talk about how the CFPB regulations will impact Fannie Mae products. And we're going to have a separate panel getting ready for CFPB examinations. We're going to look at the exams from the CFPB and industry perspectives. And then following that, we have a panel on fair lending and unfair, deceptive, and abusive practices. That's a critical issue. You got to know about this stuff, you know, what you have to watch for, how to prepare for an exam, and know what kind of fair lending issues and UDAP, that's the unfair, deceptive, and abusive practices issues, can be raised. So, of course, we have to thank our exhibitors, and here's a list of our sponsors. Just a great list. You can see it all there. I'll leave that up for now. And you have our website there when you are ready to, if you haven't signed up already, gotten a sponsorship, or gotten your exhibit booth, or registered in either on the residential or commercial side, or both. And either way, just think about it. The single fee, and you're going to have your breakfast paid for. You're going to have, in both the commercial and residential, you have a lunch in the exhibit hall. You have 2 cocktail receptions with each, both on the commercial side and the residential side. You have networking like you never saw. You've got networking in the exhibit hall. You've got networking in our cocktail receptions. You've got networking at breakfast. You will network yourself out. Believe me, it's a great place to be if networking is what you want. And it's also a great place to be if you want information that you can go back to your office with and use in a meaningful way to make yourself more profitable. So with that, take a look at our commercial program too. I know some of you would be interested in that. It's a great program, great speakers and panels, and I think you'll find it very worthwhile. And at this point, having worn myself out trying to get it all in, I'm going to ask Jack to talk a little bit about what he's going to be doing and talking about at the regional, both in the on the general session panel in the morning and on the CFPB panel in the afternoon. I'm not going to go through Jack's extensive resume except to say that he had a 14-year tenure at National City Bank, where he dealt with, on a managerial level, reg compliance, enterprise risk management, public and government affairs management. He's a very active participant in our national trade associations, a prominent and much sought-after speaker. He chairs the State and Local Legislative and Regulatory Committee of MBA, and he serves many other committees. He is now Executive Director of Government Affairs at Wiener Brodsky, Seidman, and Kidder. Sorry, Mitch. That's a DC-based firm that's one of the nation's leading law firms practicing in the financial services area. Jack is on top of all the issues. He spends a tremendous amount of time in Congress and with regulators. He knows them all. He knows what's going on, what's behind these regs, and what some of the thoughts and intent of the regs are. So no better guy to hear from than Jack. So with that, Jack, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Well, thanks, Bob. I appreciate that. It's always a treat for me to come to the conference. And I've been coming for a long time, since I actually was active in the Pennsylvania MBA before I got as active nationally as I did. But it's a joy, it's a great time, and it's always incredibly informative. And if you look down the list of speakers, you see why. Because it's the top of the pyramid in virtually every aspect of the business. So from Dave Stevens and the folks at the trade associations, Mike Burns from FHFA and the government point of view, you'll get CFPB speakers. One thing Bob hedged about a little bit, for those of you who've come to the conference before, you know that we tended to get Bart Shapiro from the CFPB for the panel that Ken Markison and I do, the In the Weeds panel. For those of you who know Bart, his last day at the CFPB was this past Friday. So disappointing departure from those of us who have to work with the CFPB. Another guy with a lot of experience and a rational mind has left, so that's unfortunate. But there are a lot of folks left at CFPB who've got an awful lot of impact on our business, and so we always look forward to bringing them up, particularly in the supervision and enforcement side. Steve Antonakis and David Blyken are the top 2 people in that world at CFPB, and we know them very well because Steve was the Massachusetts Commissioner of Banks and David Blyken was the Deputy Secretary in Pennsylvania. And so for anybody that's been coming to the conference for a long time, you've had the chance to interact with those people who are now in a very important position to impact your future. So that's the kind of atmosphere we have. And Bob asked me to talk a little bit about some of the things we'd be focusing on the residential side. For those of you on the residential side, I'm sure you didn't escape seeing that between the 10th and 20th of January, the CFPB published, even if you don't count signature pages, 3,494 pages of regulation just in that 10-day period alone. They've also since asked for comment on a couple of other issues, some affecting those items and others not. And very recently, they just published a rule about disparate impact and how they're going to use that concept as the bedrock of their enforcement in fair lending issues. So it's an incredibly busy time. There's loan officer comp changes. The fundamentals have stayed the same, but actually This is one place where the rules have gotten somewhat clearer and a little more beneficial, particularly to companies who are trying to do things like profit sharing, 401k plans and such. The CFPB actually did more precisely define what constitutes a proxy for loan terms and how you might be able to do profit sharing for your loan officers if you are trying to do that. And also, they did clarify, and we think one of the biggest unfortunate side effects of the original rulemaking, they did clarify that brokers are permitted to pay their loan officers on a commission basis, so long as it doesn't vary by loan terms, even if the brokerage itself is being paid by the borrower on a commission basis. So there's a lot of good in there. That's true of a lot of the rules. There's also a lot of challenge in there. It's true of a lot of the rules. We now have the rules around ability to repay determination and the qualified mortgage. We also know there was a lot of question whether a qualified mortgage would be a safe harbor or a rebuttable presumption. We now know it's both, depending on its price, so you can have one or the other. We know a lot more about servicing and what's going to be required on that front because the servicing rules have come out. We've got the rules on the expanded HOPA, high cost protection. All of that, as I said, lots and lots of pages in 10 days' time, still being digested. You'll hear a lot more at the conference about all those things because we will have had the time to see exactly what they say and how it impacts on what's going on right now. The morning session is a lot more fun for me than the afternoon, largely because that's the theoretical discussion. So that morning session, the industry leaders panel that Regina and Mike Vitale chair, becomes kind of a coffee table conversation, actually more like the conversation you get in the bar at about 11 o'clock at night when people start thinking about how life might change and what might happen. And you're getting that from some of the top people in the industry, both on the government side with people like Meg, as well as people in the MI industry with Teresa from Radian, and folks who actually run operations in the business. So it's a lot of fun to hear everybody's viewpoint on not just what is happening, but what is likely to happen and how it's all going to change. That panel tends to be very open to wide-ranging questions. And we've been lucky enough to have opinions from folks that over the years have turned out to be pretty illuminating. They've helped us prepare for things for where they're going, not necessarily where they are. And then, of course, in the afternoon, we do get to knuckle down into the weeds, and so Ken Markison and I and Rich Andriano and whoever else Bob manages to put up on the stage with us, because it's always a bit of a surprise, we'll deal in those rules that were published with things that we've seen already and how we think they're going to impact your business and what you might be looking to do to get ready for them. On top of all of that, somewhere in there, I'm sure, we'll also talk about what you've been hearing in the news for the last week or so, which is the ruling, the court ruling that invalidated the recess appointments of the three labor board governors who now have thrown all of the rulings of the National Labor Relations Board into quandary as to whether or not they're valid. Everybody, I'm sure, recalls that on January 4th of 2012, when those people were given recess appointments to their slots, Richard Cordray was also given a recess appointment as the director of the CFPB. Same day, same logic, same kind of appointment. Everybody's wondering about what this court ruling does to the validity of Mr. Cordray and how it may impact everything the Bureau's done. There are a number of different viewpoints about what may happen relative to that. There is a suit in the works, filed originally by a small bank in Texas, that does challenge the constitutionality of the Bureau and Mr. Cordray's appointment. That one appears to be moving through the chairs. We may even have seen that one ruled on by the time we all get together in Atlantic City. But we'll certainly discuss what the implications might be, and a few of us who have absolutely no way of knowing, we'll talk about what we think might happen relative to that, and whether or not it's a good or bad idea to hope that that's your answer as opposed to trying to prepare for the rules that are out there. By the way, I'm one of the folks that think that's not your answer. Most of what's out there is going to happen to you. It's time to get ready and look at how you're going to cope, and we'll try to help you do that in Atlantic City. So that's kind of what I'm expecting, and I think it's what we get every year. So, Bob, I'll turn it back over to you with that. Happy to address any questions you might have.
Okay, well, we have this on a mute setting, so I don't know if we can take it off at this point. I'm not sure. We'll check on that. In any event, what I would suggest is any questions that you have, you really want to bring down with you to the regional. And a good starting point is that open forum on Tuesday, and Jack will be there, and I'm hoping that Ken Markison and a few of the others will be able to get there in time to do that with us and, you know, air some of these issues. So I think Jack laid it out very well. Remember the commercial side. For those of you who are interested, you just take a look on our website and take a look at the program there, and you'll see some of the panels we have, capital markets panel, and you know, some good stuff. We have lenders panels where the lenders tell you what's available on the commercial market, in the commercial markets, and a lot of other good stuff. So with that, Jack, thank you very much for being on, and thank you all for being on. And if you have any questions after you take a look at our website or whatever, there's telephone numbers there to call. And I look forward to seeing you all at the regional. So thank you again.